Hi girls, in this lesson we're going to be talking about how to factor trinomials. And specifically we're going to talk about them when a equals 1. That means the leading coefficient, the number that's in front of the x squared, is going to be a 1. So they're going to fit in this format, x squared plus bx plus c, where b is some number and c is some number. You can see a few examples of what they're going to look like. X squared plus 5x plus 6, x squared plus 8x plus 7, and so on. So when we factor these trinomials, we know that there were two binomials that were multiplied together to give us x squared plus 5x plus 6. So let's go back and think about what it looks like when we multiply two binomials. If we multiply x plus 4 times x plus 5. We multiply the x times x and x times 5, so we get x squared plus 5x. And then we multiply the 4 times the x and the 5, so plus 4x plus 20. And then we have those two like terms in the middle that we combine. So we have x squared plus 9x plus 20. Looking at this process will help us to undo the process when we factor over here. We know that the x squared came from multiplying x times x. So when we see that there's an x squared here, it must have come from multiplying an x times an x. So we know that the front term is going to be an x. Let's see, I'm having trouble writing x times x. And then let's pick another color here. The 20 came from multiplying the 4 times the 5. So these two back numbers are going to need to multiply to give us 6. Well, we know that to multiply and get 6, we can either multiply 1 times 6, or we could multiply 2 times 3. So the question is, which of those pairs do we want to use? Well, let's go back to the problem we were talking about over here, the multiplying, and look at that 9x. And where did that 9x come from? Well, it came from adding the 5x and the 4x, which is what we got when we multiplied these two and multiplied these two. So that 5 and 4 multiplied to give you 20, but when they add together, they gave you 9. So we need the pair of numbers that not only multiplies to give us 6, but adds to give us 5. So we're going to select the 2 and the 3 because 2 plus 3 gives us 5, where 1 plus 6 gives us 7. So it was a positive 5, so that's going to be plus 2 and plus 3. So x plus 2 times x plus 3 multiplies together to give you x squared plus 5x plus 6. So that's the factored form. Remember, we're undoing the multiplication when we factor. So on this next one, we have x squared plus 8x plus 7. I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing my parentheses. I see the front term was an x squared again, so that's going to be x times x. And then I need numbers that multiply to give me a positive 7. So 1 and 7, that's the only pair that adds to give me 7. Do they add to give me 8? And they do. So plus 1 and plus 7. It doesn't matter if the x plus 1 comes first or the x plus 7 comes first. Those are reversible. It doesn't matter which order you put them in. Okay. Here we've got x squared plus 12x plus 27. I'm going to draw my parentheses. Oops. And the first thing is an x squared, so it's going to be x times x. Now we need numbers to multiply to give us 27. So 1 times 27, but that adds 28, that's not my pair. 3 times 9 gives me 27, and it adds to give me 12. That's the pair I'm looking for, plus 3 and plus 9. You'll notice when you look at the signs of the 3 we've done, all 3 problems started binomial. It had addition and addition. So they had to multiply to give you a positive 6 and add to give you a positive 5. Multiply to give you a positive 7, add to give you a positive 8. Multiply to give you a positive 27, add to give you a positive 12. So every time we were choosing 2 positive numbers. Well, on this next one, we need them to multiply to give us a positive 12, but we want to add to give us a negative 8. So what kind of numbers can multiply to give you a positive, but add to give you a negative? Well, it's going to be a negative times a negative. So this time when we make our list, we're only going to use negative numbers. Okay, so I'm going to draw my parentheses. To get x squared, we do x times x. We need numbers that multiply to give us positive 12. So negative 1 times negative 12, but that adds to give us negative 13, so that's not it. Negative 2 times negative 6, that adds to give me negative 8. So I'm going to go ahead and stop making a list since I found the right one and put in x minus 2 times x minus 6. That's my factored form. All right, we have one more of this type before we switch direction a little bit. When we look at this one, you may notice that the number in front of the x squared is not a 1. And I said this lesson was all with the a being 1. Well, the first step of all factoring is to look for a common factor. The ones we just didn't have a common factor, but this one does. So our very first step of factoring is going to be to factor out the common factor of 5. So 5x squared divided by 5 is x squared. 10x divided by 5 is 2x. And 5 divided by 5 is 1. So that's just our first step. From there, we know that there's got to be 2 binomials that multiply to give us that trinomial. So we need factors of 1. So 1 times 1, that adds to give us 2. So that's our thing. To get x squared, we do x times x. We're going to get plus 1 and plus 1. So this piece is going to be our final answer. Whoop.